All right, we're going live here, and it takes a minute to warm up. And while we do, wait for people to start to come in. I want to tell people who are watching this later, I'm with Henrik Fexeus. I'm going to repeat this again. I'm super excited because we're following up. We talked body language. We're also going to talk some mentalism here.
Mhm.
And I wanted to put it out to everybody. If you like this kind of topic, I have other body language experts who have already been on and others who are coming up. And these include folks like Greg Hartley, who's done body language for television, for the government, and he ran the SEER school. And that was a school that they use in the Army, survival and essentially prisoner of war school for the military. He ran it and would practice, I hate to say torturing soldiers, but torturing our own soldiers so they can handle that, as well as other FBI agents, etc. For today, Henrik Fexeus, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you. How are you, Eric?
That's wonderful. It's great. We had a really cool interview before, and I want to continue on it because we afterward I asked you a question about mentalism because we didn't cover it much in the interview. And I want to encourage everybody here to ask questions as we go because that's the whole point of this. But to start us off, what is the history of mentalism?
So, not many people are aware of this, but or rather, not many people know the word mentalism even. But so the history of mentalism was really that there were a couple of clever guys in the 1920s who looked at mediums and people communicating with the spirits and the way they were cheating. And then they took those techniques and they started to use them for entertainment purposes. So originally it was called psychic entertainment. So basically it was reproducing whatever medium did on stage, but just telling people that it's only entertainment. And that sort of grew into its own thing. And it became one of the illusion arts and got connected with magic, where basically every technique at your disposal is fine to create the illusion of being able to read minds or influence people in a almost supernatural way and so on. And in the this was very popular in the 60s and 70s. You have people like Uri Geller. A couple of the mentalists never said that they were fake. They claimed they did it for real.
He was the spoon guy, right? Melting spoons.
The spoon guy, exactly. People like that, and that was huge in the age of Aquarius, the 70s. People loved that stuff. And then it sort of got mixed up with traditional magic, and it became something weird called, well, at least for my money, something called mental magic. And mental magic was really just strange magic tricks, but dressed up as a mind reading. I don't know. It became very confusing. And it sort of died off a bit after that. And about 20 years ago, I should say, there was this renewed interest, much thanks to a very clever British guy called Darren Brown, who realized that a lot of the techniques that the old mediums used were actually applied psychology as well. And a renewed interest awoke where we started to ask the question, well, how much of this stuff can actually be done for real? We know that we can fake it, but just let's play with the idea that we can do some of this for real. We can't, no mentalists believe that there are spirits that you can come in contact with. We're a very skeptical bunch because we know how to fake it. Right. But there might be stuff like cold reading, hypnosis, and so on that you can actually apply onto this sort of entertainment. And at the same time, there was this sort of surge, I should say, in psychology with neuroscience, where you, for the first time ever, were actually able to get quantifiable data from the mind and get, proper statistics about the human behavior. Up until that point, psychology had been a guessing game or an observational science, where you say, yeah, all these people behave in this way, so we assume that. But now, in the 80s and 90s, suddenly we could get much harder data. And people interested in mentalism, or at least some of them, also got interested in that because it ties very well together. And then it became even more interesting because if mentalism toys with the idea of, for instance, being able to, I don't know, influence someone's behavior, well, that is, of course, something that you could do for real. It's called marketing, right? Or propaganda, or religion. So today, for me at least, mentalism is this playground where you and I will have some sort of understanding. There's a contract that not everything that will happen during this show, for instance, will be completely real. I will lie lots of times, but there will also be real stuff happening.
And I pay for the privilege.
Sorry?
And I pay for the privilege.
You pay for the privilege, and you will never know when I'm lying or when I'm telling you the truth. So it's basically, it's like politics, but more fun.
Well, that's fascinating. How does this, it sounds like science kind of got added into it, which maybe legitimatized it even more, to where you're like, okay, there's a scientific basis behind what is happening here. And you mentioned that in the past that people, I guess you would say anecdotally, we noticed, oh, if you do this, people will do that.
Yeah.
But now they have brain scans, and they literally wire up people and say, oh, look, their brain is flashing at that particular region and responding in a manner when that action takes place.
Yes.
And it seems like, well, you brought up Darren Brown. He almost runs some of his specials like a science experiment, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's very interesting, because Darren, I'm not going to talk too much about Darren, but he started off as a magician, a proper magician, turned to mentalism and sort of reinvented, to be honest, the entire genre. And even though his stage shows are still pure mentalism entertainment, his TV specials have, for the last 10 years, I think, become more and more just social experiments, where he takes control of a person or that person's surroundings and try to change their outlook on life, basically. But again, going back to what the old mediums did, to comfort someone who's in grief because their husband is dead or what have you. I mean, it's all about changing people, really. And mentalism can be about that. It doesn't have to be. I mean, you have a lot of mentalists out there that will not talk about body language, or they won't even have an understanding of body language. They will use other techniques. But the version of it that I'm interested in is the one that also explores our psyche and our essence as human beings, and the way we interact with each other.
Right. Well, and you actually run experiments yourself. Like we've talked about Robert Cialdini and how he has experiments, but you told me of an experiment that you funded yourself, if I recall, something about people getting a donut or a dessert with their espresso.
Right. Yeah. So that's the thing, because over here in Sweden, I had sort of a career on TV. We'd sort of actually, I don't know if I ever told him this, but it sort of came from Darren Brown, because when Darren came on TV in Europe, people thought that everything he did was for real, right? But I mean, it was entertainment.
Sure.
It was trickery involved. And I had this sort of idea for a TV thing with a production company, and they wanted to do everything for real, because they wanted it to be basically they wanted a program foreman to teach people stuff, not just to be entertained. So they went, oh, so all that stuff that he did, that's not completely real. So how much stuff can we do then for real? So my first venture as a TV mentalist did become to do proper psychological experiments, but using my understanding on how to build illusions and create drama to do these experiments. And I kept doing that for a couple of years. So most TV stuff I've done in Sweden is coming up with different ways of demonstrating human behavior. And yeah, the experiment you mentioned was just one small part of that, but that was about the word not. Or if you remember, what we did was I claimed that most often we do get what we want. It's just that we are not always completely aware about what it is we're asking for.
Right.
So I had this girl going into a cafe and asking them to give her a piece of chocolate. And we did this twice. And the first time and we filmed it with hidden cameras. And the first time no one gave her chocolate. And the second time everyone gave her chocolate. And we just decided to change the wording of what she said. So the first time she said, "Oh, I can't have one of those, can I?" And they said, "No, you can't." And the second time around, she said, "Oh, can I have one of those?" And they said, "Of course you can." So the point was, both times she actually got what she wanted. They agreed with her. It was just, well, what was it that she was actually asking about? So that's just, one of these things that fascinates me, which of course plays a very huge part in the way I need to construct what I do on stage, for instance, as a mentalist.
Mm-hmm.
I need to be very well aware of these things, how even such a small word as I can't or can, how that will nudge the behavior of the person in front of me into a way that I want to or not.
I meant to ask you earlier too, because we were talking about the history and how it came out of mediums. Did it also come out of the confidence world? Because there's crossovers with con men too, isn't there?
There is. Well, I would say no. I'm not. I'm not the best mentalist historian in the world, but I not really. But of course, there is an overlap, because there is I think there is a crossroads of interests there, because you can use mentalism, of course, to scam people, and mentalists are interested in all areas, in all aspects of society, basically, where you manipulate people.
Right.
And scam artists or con artists is a great example of that. So I wouldn't say that they had common ground, but there are definitely some crossover.
Well, perfect. And as I stated before, the whole point of this is to get questions, and I'm happy to say that we actually have some questions rolling in.
All right. Yeah, we forgot to say that. Great question. Yeah.
Yes, we do. And first one is with Martin Roberg. Am I saying that correctly? What are your thoughts on Stooges and entertainment shows?
Right. So maybe I should explain about the word Stooges.
Please, yeah.
Yeah. So a stooge is a member of the audience who is playing along.
A plant?
A plant. So
Okay.
for instance, if you have a magician walking down the audience and ripping someone's shirt off, you can't do that with a shirt unless you want to tear the guy's arms off as well. So if he does that, that person is a plant, that person is a stooge.
Okay.
And in magic shows, I mean, it's fine. And in mentalism, of course, the easiest way to create the illusion of mind reading would just to have a stooge. I'm going to pay you $50. Just go along with everything I say. That is not something that I personally, I don't endorse it, and I never use it, because what will be the point? That would make my job just so extremely boring. I think it is the cheapest way to go. I think it is the laziest way to go. For me personally, when I perform as an entertainer, I want to be challenged. I want to create a show that is a challenge for myself to see which way will this take today. If I were to use Stooges, I would get completely bored and probably not do the show. However, if you are a performer, if you want to use a stooge, good luck to you.
Do you ever, shall we say,
oh, sorry,
struggle? No, I mean, do you ever struggle
Martin,
at times?
If that was that an answer to your question, Martin?
I think it was fantastic, but do you ever struggle at times with that? I mean, I imagine if you're not using a stooge, there's got to be some people you're reading or whatever, and they're just not cooperative, and you're like, oh shoot, I get it wrong.
Yeah, because here's the thing: there are people who are better to work with than others. However, since a stooge is the obvious explanation for what I do, I need to make everyone convinced that I'm not using pre-planted people. So what I usually do is I toss something out in the audience, maybe a frisbee or something, and whoever catches it comes up on stage.
Got
And
it.
I'm not that great frisbee thrower to be able to hit one person out of 800. It will be a random choice. But that also means that I will have no control over who that person will be. It might be someone who is just completely dead nervous and can't take in any instructions. It can be someone who's just too drunk. It can be someone who wants to challenge me. Most often a dad who's there with a family, and suddenly his position as an alpha male is being threatened. He has to restore order. So he comes up on stage and tries to put me into place. That is a very Swedish thing.
What do you do?
And I have to deal with that, of course. And that means that every time I do it, it doesn't matter how many times I've done a particular show. Every time the curtains opens, my last question before I go, "Hi, welcome to the show," is, "I wonder what's going to go wrong today."
So they're like hecklers? Are they almost like hecklers to a comedian?
Yeah, well, yeah, I suppose the people who want to challenge me are, but the problem is, if you're a good comedian and you can put your heckler in place and you can continue with the show. For me, yeah, I could stop the show, have the person leave stage and bring up another one, but that would mean another couple of 5 minutes and it would be a losing battle. I need to show that I'm in control. So I need to be able to work with whatever I have. So because I mean, a heckler I could ignore. But now there's someone up on stage with me and we're supposed to make something amazing happen. So, and I can't really back away from that unless they're so drunk they're falling over the face,
So do you have a bag of tricks? Without revealing one, do you have, shall we say, a set of methods that you can use very quickly to say, oh, it's one of these, do this. Oh, it's one of those, do that.
A better entertainer would. I have no plan B.
Oh, okay.
Because the thing is, I never know what's going to go wrong. So I don't know what to prepare for. But what usually happens is that after a couple of performances, I start to realize that, oh, hang on, this can happen here. And then I tweak something in the script to make that less occurring. A good example was from the last stage show I did called Box. And in Box, there was a sequence where I talked about classical illusions and how they had been used in order to shape history. And I talked about when Napoleon brought Robert Houdin with him in war to trick a tribes leader into believing that Robert Houdin had supernatural powers because he could remove the strength from the tribe's greatest warrior. And what they did was they had a box and they hid an electromagnet in the ground. So when they switched it on, the warrior could not lift the box. A box which he previously could have lifted, of course. So I talked about this and I wanted to illustrate it in a psychological manner. So I had this box and I brought up this guy on stage and he lifted the box. And then I said, I'm going to put something heavy in the box I don't want you to see. So he closed his eyes and I put a feather in the box. And everyone saw the feather except him. And then I started to talk about, I tried to give him suggestions, but those mornings where you can't even move yourself out of the bed because it's like the entire weight of the world is on your shoulders and so on. And I think it was on the opening night, maybe, I had this guy who was really standing there holding the box, really flexing his muscles. And I'm just thinking, oh, shit. So I go through all these suggestions with him, trying to make him, drain his power, make him feel tired. And he just goes, no, never happened. So what I did next day, I said, I need someone up on stage who has a very good sense of imagination. Right. And then I went through the entire thing the same way, because now when I said, how that feels, if the person would say, no, never happened, now I can say, well, great for you. However, you're standing up here because you have a fantastic sense of imagination. So it will be very easy for you to imagine how that will feel. Either he needs to get along, or he will create a cognitive dissonance,
Right.
and also seem like an idiot to the rest of the audience. Because if you say no, why are you on stage? So that's how I have to work around my heckler.
There's a comedian here who has a podcast, Adam Carolla. He has a routine that he calls a stupid or liar. And he put it, that's the kind of box right there. So it's like, however they come out, either they're stupid or they lied. And which way do you go?
It's called a double bind.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. That's a much classier way of saying it.
Yeah. There's a psychological term for it.
Oh, perfect. Now, one last thing, a lot of comedians, because I'm stuck on the analogy, I guess, will work their material in small clubs while they write their hour, so to speak. Do you have any kind of outlet or anything or smaller venues that you have the opportunity to test these things out in?
I would love to, but first of all, I do so much other stuff, so I don't really have the time for it. Also, when I write my shows, they're written in a way that it's very hard for me to just break out 1 or 2 or 3 routines and try them out, because they all sort of fit together. Okay. So basically, I'm in rehearsals for 2 months, but that's mainly technical rehearsals because it's on an empty stage, and I'm going to walk over here, I'm going to do this, I'm going to say these lines, the lighting is going to be like that, and I just assume that it will work. And then 2 weeks from opening night, I start to have or open rehearsals or audience rehearsals, and then we bring people in.
Oh, okay.
So after when opening night is, I have by then probably had about 7 trial runs in front of an audience, and hopefully needed to sort out everything. But problem is that will be fine if everything in the show is something that I could learn in 7 trial runs. Right. But there's also a lot of skills that I don't really have, but that I need to have for that show. So I will sort of have to, memory skills or whatever, that I will sort of go away and just sit in a corner for myself. Oh, wow. For, a couple of hours every day for a month or 2, and just trying to rehearse the skill in my head, hoping that it will come out on stage.
You like living on the edge.
Weird occupation. Yeah. Sorry?
You like living on the edge for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I would love to put together a show where I'm completely safe. I have a lot of mentalist friends who are much more clever than me, who do these shows where everything is fail safe. They know exactly what to do and when to do it. And it's just, it's painting by numbers, which means, I'm not saying that to put them down. That means that they can focus on the entertainment bit of it, and not the brainy bit of it. But every time I sit down to write a show, I think, I'm going to make this easy for me. And a couple of hours later, I'm just up there somewhere and just, I don't know.
Well, maybe you would lose your energy if you had it too perfectly pat. Maybe you depend on that danger to have the live wire aspect of your show.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Or maybe I'm just stupid. I was talking to Darren Brown in February about the new show I'm writing, and I'm told them that it's actually the great illusion of the show. Oh, I'm going to spoil it now. I realize, well, it's too late. The great illusion of the show is that it's not actually one show. There will be at least 18 different shows.
Oh, wow.
18 mutations of the show, depending on what will happen in the very first minutes of the show.
Oh, choose your own adventure.
Sort of, but without knowing it. So the idea that the audience will think that this is what will happen every night, but actually it's 18 different paths that the show will take.
Well, that's a good way to fill the seats up and say, well, every time you see it, it could be different.
Yeah, I suppose. Well, Darren just thought I was insane. He thought I was an idiot. And he's right. He's probably right.
Oh, well. All right. Well, we've got another question here. This is from Gavin Stone. Hi, Eric. My new regular Thursday night fix. Haha, love the shows. Okay, folks, be like Gavin. Subscribe. Come by. See us on Thursdays and check out the other interviews. Hi, Henrik. Can you teach us a simple mentalist trick to amaze our friends at parties?
Right. Yes, I can actually.
Oh.
And this is, I might get in trouble for teaching this, but I don't care. Because this is a really old thing, so I don't think anyone can claim the rights to it.
Right.
And also, mentalism is a very secretive brotherhood, the most secretive there is. But this is something that is also so very, very close to what I do in body language and so on. So this is really applied understanding of body language and skill of observation dressed as a mind reading, which is the way I love mentalism. And I would love to be able to show it to you on camera, but I won't be able to. So I will just run it by you, and I promise you this will work. So what will happen, Gavin, is that you will pick a small object, could be anything, a coin, something, whatever. You'll give it to someone. You'll turn away. You'll ask that person to put their hands behind their back, change that object back and forth between their hands. When they're done, they're going to bring the hands out in front of them. And when they're done, you're going to turn around and you can tell them what hand they're holding their object in. That sounds incredible. And there are two parts to it to make the illusion work. The first is the mechanics of it. Because this is what you do. You give them an object, tell them to put it in the hands behind the back, change it around a bit. You honestly turn around. Then you tell them this. Now, I want you to put your hands in front of you. And by the way, Gavin, you also show them this, I think, when you explain it to them. Sorry, yeah. So first you explain to them what you want them to do. I want you to put your hands behind the back, and then I want to do this. And what you want to do is this. Put your hands out, and whichever hand holds the object, put it towards your temple. So you can really concentrate on that object. Try to focus on it. Feel the object in your hand with your mind and send it to me. Blah, 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 blah. Basically, you just talk a lot of nonsense while having them keeping their hand at their temple. And then you say, now lower your hand next to the other one, and you immediately turn around. Now, Gavin, here's what makes the trick work. You will have about half a second. That's how long you will need to take a glance at their hands, and then you will need to look them in the eye. Now, for them, the magic begins. You will look them in the eyes, and you will say, yeah, I get a sense, I get a feeling of, look at me. Yes, it should be in this hand. What actually happened was that because they're holding one hand up to their forehead for so long, the blood will actually flow from the hand back. So when they put the hand down, it will be much paler than the other one. It will be a visible difference between the two hands. Whichever hand is the palest one, that's the one holding the object. However, if you were to turn around and just stare at their hands, it will be very obvious what you're doing. So the trick is actually to turn around, just quickly notice which one is the paler one, and then start your magic while looking them in the eye. So that was a bit of a convoluted explanation for something that will take you 20 seconds to do, but it's an amazing trick. It will work, Gavin, and it will astonish your friends.
Fantastic. Now we have a question from Mitch Kokashan.
Right.
Is it easier to predict someone's idea/answer via probability or by subliminally programming them?
Oh, yeah. Well, so of course, if you want to read someone's mind, it's easier if you have decided what they're going to think about. So, but I'm not quite sure if I understand this question. So probability can be very strong when it comes to predicting behavior. To subliminally program someone is something that actually do not work. We can, as mentalists, we can claim that that's what we're doing. But if we say that, we're probably not. What can work, however, is hypnotic suggestion. A suggestion placed under hypnosis and then acted out later on, or something called perception without awareness, because subliminally means that it's below the threshold of your awareness. And subliminal input, yes, in controlled settings, researchers can show that subliminal input can affect your behavior in a controlled setting. But out in the real world, when you're bombarded with a lot of other input, that will sort of most likely drown out. But there is something called perception without awareness, and that is to create sensory inputs that are not subliminally because you are aware of them. It's just that you're not focusing on them. For instance, there's an orange book behind me here. That one is there, and you've seen it the entire time, but you haven't thought about it. So you have perceived the color. That might have been something that I could have used later on if I asked you about a quick color and imagined a small rectangle of a color, whatever. But that technique, so perception without awareness, that is something that you can use to affect other people's behavior. But whether they will be more influenced by that or by probability, that has, of course, a lot to do with the probability statistics for the specific thing you want to influence them to do, and also, of course, how easily suggestible this person is. So, but subliminally, I wouldn't go that way.
Okay. Could it also be that, using like the double binds and different things like that, you can direct them into a choice?
Yes, absolutely. And that is also and that is a very direct form of control, to just by language. And also, of course, you can create, for instance, if I want you to, so every thought we have will be influenced whatever we had top of mind just a couple of seconds ago. We can't help it, right? So if I want you to mention a number, and I want it to be a really high number, I would be wise to ask you this while we're in a setting with a lot of I don't know, maybe we are next to a wall which counts Facebook likes or YouTube likes, something like that, really high numbers, because that will put you in the frame of mind of high numbers, even though they have nothing to do with whatever it is I ask you to. So that is one very direct way that I can I can't control you precisely, but I can sort of narrow it down for you. This is the ballpark that your thoughts will move around in. You won't stray too far away from that.
So how do you work it then? Do you kind of have a limited number of outcomes? Like, you want to get them down a path, and if they generally go this direction, you can just kind of keep shifting and shifting and shifting as they go to get them to go down that path. So they may not exactly cooperate with your first intention, but hopefully they get most of the way there.
Yeah, well, it all depends on my goal and also the setting. And if it's in a mentalism show, remember that I control every single variable in that room. I control the temperature, I control the lighting, I control every word they hear, and also I cheat. So
I hope you do.
I will stamp you on the foot if you say the wrong thing.
Okay.
No, but in real life, yeah, I think that would be, the way to just slightly nudge them until they end up approximately where I need them to be. But on stage, usually I need it to be, much more sharper, should we say, than just basically this. For instance, if I wanted to borrow money of you, say I would be fine with borrowing $10.
Mhm.
And the way for me to do that would be to first ask to borrow $100. Then you would
I
say
see.
no, and then I say, well, could I borrow $10? Well, in comparison, that sounds like nothing, and you will probably say yes.
That's anchoring, right?
Yeah, and it's also it's comparison rule, the rule of comparison. But
Okay.
if you would say no, but I can give you $8, I will be fine as well. But on stage, I might need you to actually give me $8 and nothing else. And that means that I would use another set of techniques as well to ensure that.
Okay. Well, next question. Now, you kind of answered it, I think, with the history of it, but maybe to make an easier definition, what is a mentalist? What kinds of ways are you engaged with others on stages only or for behavioral modification?
Right.
This is Kimber Chen.
Yeah, and that's a good question, quick, Kimber, because we actually didn't touch about what is a mentalist. We just went straight into the history of it. So a mentalist is an entertainer who performs a kind of magical entertainment, which mixes actual techniques derived from psychology and human behavior, mixed up with techniques from theater, from stagecraft, and from magic, to create the illusion of being able to read minds and influence people in a supernatural manner. But it is a magical art form. We are creating illusions, although some of the techniques we're using are actually real. But we are creating illusions. As I said, there's a contract that not everything that will happen on stage will be completely honest. So that is a mentalist. But I'm also other things. And me personally, I do not, as for the rest of that question, I do not coach, or I don't have any personal counseling. I write books. I do a lot of professional speaking all over the world, trying to teach skills in body language, reading, and so on to other people. If there are people who also are mentalists who do take on private clients or consult on a private basis, I do hope that they do not do that as mentalists, that they actually do it because they have some other separate skill, because otherwise that will actually be fraudulent.
Right. I had Christina Lennon on, and she is a hypnotist, but she's also a clinical psychologist.
Yeah,
So
good point.
And that's a perfect example. Stage hypnosis and therapeutic hypnosis, she does both of them, but they're very different in how they're applied.
Yeah.
Now, you also do a lot of television, don't you? I think you, for example, attended your princess's wedding and kind of gave a reading on the body language of her husband and things like that.
I was actually not in attendance. That was just one of the papers called me up and asked me to do it remotely.
Okay.
But yes, I do. For instance, quite recently, there was election year in Sweden, recent 2 years now, and then I sat in the morning news shows to analyze the body language of the political party leaders and stuff like that. So I'm very often called upon by the media whenever someone has said something that seems a bit strange or is very important to analyze the non-verbal part of that communication.
Yeah, that's done quite a lot here. There's several body language people, Mark Bowden, etc.
Exactly.
Janine Driver, and yes, they go on television, and it's like, well, Tiger King is the most popular thing going on in the area right now, and it's all like, well, did Carol Baskin kill her husband?
Yeah.
What is her body language saying?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. In Sweden, we're very skeptical, very secular country. So the stuff that I do, I wouldn't say that it's frowned upon by the serious media, but it is considered, more entertainment. Yeah, analyze Tiger King, that's fine. So when I actually got to analyze the political party leaders for the most prominent morning news show in Sweden, which is, on our version of BBC, that was sort of the
pinnacle.
Yeah, because the serious broadcast journalism actually accepted this, that this is something that we could show without being killed. And the first question, or second question I got from the reporter was just, well, hang on a second. This stuff that you're talking about, are you just making this up, or is there some research being done about this? But yes, there's some research. There's been some research for quite some time now, but they had no idea, because people, it seems like people who know about this stuff know quite a lot about it.
Right.
And people who don't know about it, they don't know anything, but they basically haven't heard about it. What do you mean non-verbal communication? All communication is verbal. No, it's not.
Well, and I've talked to so many different body language experts, and the truth is we all used to have the ability. It was natural to us.
Yeah.
But modern conveniences and the press and everything else, we've kind of just lost the skill or buried it. Now, next question on here. How did you get started doing this kind of work, and how did you learn?
Right. So I got interested in this. I'm doing all the tells now. Just looking into it. So the thing is, I was a very socially awkward kid when I was young, and I realized that I was. I always felt that everyone else had got a sort of manual on how to behave with other kids.
Mhm.
I apparently was homesick the day that book was being handed out. So not only did I not know how to play with kids, I also got bullied quite a lot. And I asked myself, what on earth is going on here? Why are they behaving this very irrational way? And I think that sort of triggered my interest in human behavior, because for me, it became a matter of survival. I needed to know what it was that I was missing in order to survive. And also I needed to find a way to feel good about myself and not to get destroyed by the bullying. And that took me on a path where I just for myself basically explored human behavior in everything. I actually started out in theater, first as an amateur actor, and then as a hobby director, and then I studied marketing and psychology. No, I didn't study marketing. Sorry, I worked in marketing, studied psychology, studied media, and I did this for quite some time, and I just got deeper and deeper into it. And I also, probably one of the reasons I got bullied, I also had an interest in proper magic when I was a kid. I loved to do magic tricks for my non-friends at school and so on. And when I was like 35 years old, 34 years old, I realized that I could sort of combine my understanding of human behavior, which was at this point quite big, with my interest in magic, and that would meet in my version of mentalism.
So you got started later in life then?
Yeah. But I mean, I had been doing this for 20 years. I just didn't connect the dots until then.
Right.
Sorry, did I say 35? 30, yeah, 33 maybe. So I just put on a small show, and it started off from there. But quite soon after I put on my very first show as a mentalist, I started to get phone calls from companies who wanted me to come there and talk to them about body language, about nonverbal communication. And that feels insane to say that now, but that was actually the first time ever that I realized that, hang on, do you not know this? I thought everyone else knew except me. I thought it was just me that didn't know. Are you saying that you don't? Well, here's the thing. I do know now. I do know quite a lot. So then I started to give talks. I started to write books. And after one or two books, I thought that now people will stop asking. They did not. I've written 12 books now. And they've been translated into 37 languages all over the world. I mean, it seems like the interest for this kind of material or knowledge is almost insatiable. And why not? Because it really is the holy grail, isn't it? To really understand other people and get along with other people. That is because that is sort of the foundation for everything that's meaningful.
Sure.
So yeah. So
that leads us perfectly to the next one. How can we support you and see your work? Are you online or only in person on stages? Well, one would buy your books.
Yeah. So there's two. There's only one of the books out yet in English in the US and the UK. It's called The Art of Reading Minds. And the next one, The Art of Social Excellence, will be out, I think, just after summer. But I am, of course, on YouTube, and a lot of my psychological experiments are there. Also, all my live shows, most of them anyway, are on YouTube. I think everything should be subtitled in English, even though I speak Swedish in them. So it's just my name, Henrik Fexeus. You'll find my own YouTube channel. And I'm just now, because most of the stuff on YouTube is a bit old, so I'm actually just now producing new material strictly for YouTube, or directly for YouTube. So I hope to see you there, Kimberly.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing that myself. You'll have to link me on that. Next question.
Joker Brat.
It's Joker Brat. Yes, Henrik. I guess you've seen all of Darren Brown's videos. Can you explain all or most of his trick, like the advertising video? Don't do it. I just want to know if you know how he does it. Okay. Okay.
Right. So, okay. So here's the thing. Since Darren has never told me how he does anything, I can only assume, right? I can't know. And yes, I have a method which I would use were I to do the same thing. I will assume that it is the method that he uses as well. I can't say that is the one he uses, but yes.
Okay, so bottom line, you could achieve the same result. You know a way to do it.
Yeah, those are two different things, actually, because there are also cultural variables here. Darren did most of his TV work in the UK. People in the UK react very differently from people in Sweden, which you will see in my videos, for instance.
Can we talk about that? Break that down. Tell us about that. I'd love to hear how the people react and are different, because Americans are different too, probably.
Oh, yeah, sure. You're definitely, yeah. But yes. So the big difference, and I've talked about this with a lot of British friends who are entertainers and now living in Stockholm, and they're all just, what's happening? Because, and our analysis is this. I'm not saying that we're right, but this is our analysis. As you will see if you watch any of my YouTube videos, a great Swedish reaction when someone is completely baffled and amazed, if they go, oh, right, yeah. We completely internalize, and that's not because we're impolite. It's just that we're not accustomed. We have never been taught to show our emotions. We don't have public speak. Sorry, what is called in school. You have it when you're being taught how to put on a presentation and
public speaking.
Yeah, public speaking. Yeah, we don't have that. So we don't know how to do it. That is actually the worst thing for any Swede, is to have to tell a group of people something just to get that focus on them. Whether, for instance, in the UK, they have something called panto, which everyone in the UK has grown up with. It's a form of theater which is based basically on that the people on stage are, or you're supposed to, as a member of the audience, you're supposed to shout stuff to the people on stage, and you're supposed to interact with them. So when a British person enters,
it sounds like improv almost.
Sort of, yeah. And everyone has been to a panto when they were kids. So when a British person enters a theater, they have this preconception that they're supposed to engage in some way. It's there. And if they like it, they're supposed to show it. If they don't, they're supposed to show it. It's all part of the thing. We don't have any of that. And that's, I didn't think about this until I started doing my TV work, because TV work almost came before the big stage shows. And I just thought, what's going on? Why are people not reacting to these weird things that I make sure will happen to them? And this is why no one has ever told us to show your emotions, react in a way that you tell people what you're feeling, or if something is great or not.
So how do you deal with it? How do you deal with it?
Well, I don't. I just, because in the beginning I thought that was a big problem, And I got some sort of, some of the early feedback I got was that I got nowhere near as great reactions as Darren Brown did. Yeah, well, thanks. Also, his budget is like 10 times as much. And then I realized, well, hang on, I'm performing for a Swedish crowd.
Right.
So they're programmed in the same way. So when I'm on stage, I have to find different ways of, because I know that whatever the person up on stage will be showing, that will translate into the audience. So as long as that person can show, be happy or baffled or whatever, that will be fine. And I can control that because I can, I don't know, I can tell them a joke and they will laugh,
Okay.
But when I did TV, which was basically, harassing people in the street and doing something strange, I couldn't control them that way. So yeah, you will see that difference on the YouTube clips.
Have you thought about traveling? Have you done work in the UK and experienced the difference?
So I've only actually done public speaking in the US and the UK. I have, however, filmed some stuff where I just accidentally happened to engage with some people from the UK in Stockholm. And of course, those kinds of video clips were completely different, because then I got all the amazing reactions that I wanted.
Have you thought, since you're doing...
Here's a Swedish thing. I think this is very Swedish. Mensa?
Yes, geniuses.
Yeah, the geniuses. So the Stockholm, and I learned this 4 years after the fact. The second to last show I did, the Stockholm chapter of Mensa went to see the show purely with the intention of trying to break me and figure out everything I did.
I see.
And so the entire back row were just the Mensa people trying to burn me. And they didn't succeed. They did not, didn't understand anything, which meant that they didn't also tell me for 4 years. So that is a very Swedish way to go about it.
Interesting. Since you, actually, I've heard, especially with like Christina Lennon again, sometimes the more intelligent are the easier to fool.
Yeah, I've heard that being said a lot. I'm not quite sure what that means.
A certain arrogance. I mean, the more confident you are, the more blind spots. Like I have a friend, Chase Hughes, and he's been on the show before, and he does everything from interrogation to manipulation, hypnosis, whatever. And the more confident you are, the happier he is.
Right.
The people he has the worst time with are those who are completely uncertain. Because if you're trying to run a con or you're trying to manipulate them, you're on a clock and you've got to move in order to break in or whatever, social engineering, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And if they're uncertain, well, they're screwing up your pattern.
Right.
Because they're like, oh, well, I don't know. Well, maybe I should call my manager. I don't know if we do that.
And also, I suppose if you're very sure, your mindset will be quite boxed in, and you will not leave that box. So as soon as I understand that box, I can use that to my advantage. And also, you will probably be very sure about what I am going to do, which means that if I do something else, you will have no idea about it. Whether if you're unsure, maybe you're sort of scanning the everything that happens. Oh, hang on, what was that about?
Right. They might catch something accidentally and go,
yeah,
why did you do that?
Yeah, exactly. But I always assume that I have a very intelligent audience.
I'm sure you did. Now, leading to the next question from Joker Brad again, and you're gonna have to help me with this.
Right.
I love to watch the TV show.
That is actually the name. I had a TV show called Brainstorm.
Oh, Brainstorm. Okay.
So there's a bit of mix-up because he mentions a kids show, and he also says aim to teach child about this. So there was a kids show called Hjärnkontoret, which is basically Headspace, So it's about science for kids.
Okay.
And my show, Mindstorm, was about psychology, not for kids. But the question there is really, do you have any plans on redoing that and or making a second season? So what happened was that we did 2 seasons of Mindstorm, and for the state controlled. So TV in Sweden is that we have 2 TV channels who are state controlled, much like the BBC,
right?
And then we have a bunch of commercial channels. And this show, so the state control shows, they don't have to care about viewers or ad money or whatever.
Right.
They can do whatever they want to. If they want, they're a bit like the PBS, if they want to show you knitting in 2 hours, that's going to be fine. So we did 2 seasons of Mindstorm, which was great fun. And then basically the challenger said, no, we're not going to do it anymore. We're going to do something else now. We had great ratings, but it didn't really matter to them. And unfortunately, Sweden is also very, everything is very conformative. Is that the word?
Sure.
So
collective. You're a collectivist society.
No, not really that. But it's just things are to be done. We're very boxed in.
Right. In their way. There's a way to do things, and that's the way you should.
Meant that, and my sort of area of entertainment was deemed too commercial or lowbrow for the state-owned channels, but for the commercial channels, it was much too intelligent to be.
You're in the middle there.
Yeah, so I sort of fell in the middle, and that is, I'm not complaining, but this has actually been my problem throughout my entire career, because for the commercial channels, I'm not commercial enough, and for the fancy channels, I'm a bit too commercial.
Well, you're doing YouTube. You're doing YouTube now. Are you going to maybe do more guerrilla filming and things of your sort? Because you can literally create your own presence.
Yeah. Yes. And that is the next thing I'll do. I've been pitching TV ideas for both the commercial channels and the other ones for like 10 years. And there's so much energy going into that. And you can be in development for months. And then there's this one guy saying, no, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to do that now. And you go, oh, well, that's that. So I have this folder on my computer just as TV. And there's so many drafts and scripts and on shows that never happened. So to answer the question, it's not my decision. I would love to, but it's not up to me.
Well, you could do it on your own.
Yeah.
With YouTube.
Well, the thing is, if you do it on your own, you do need a budget. You need a production company or a production team at least. And for me to just be able to create content and not have to worry about the production in itself, I just love that.
Well, you're in Sweden. Get with PewDiePie.
Yeah. That'd be very interesting content.
Yeah, well, hey, you've got a perfect range in there. You might be able to get a few.
I thought he still lived in London. Maybe
I don't follow. I just know he's Swedish and he's popular. Well, here to wrap it up, we have one final question, and I think it's a good one. Is there an optimal alcohol level for easy audiences?
Yes, there is. And I should say it's 1 glass of wine.
Oh.
It's not 2. Because after 2 glasses of wine, you might think that you're a bit more fun than the entertainer himself when you're on stage. Or you will just forget things. I will ask you to think of a city, and then later on I will ask you what city it was, and you will not know it. But 1 glass of wine, that's fine.
Well, perfect.
Yeah.
Now, we'll go ahead and wrap up here. Now, folks, this is an awesome guest. I hope you guys like people like this. And if you do, please subscribe and check out the rest of the channel, because I have another interview with Henrik on it. I apologize. And it's fantastic. So a lot of things that we talked about here, we kind of started talking about in the other one, but that focused a lot on body language. So this is perfect. And you know what? I lied. You've got one more comment here from Joker Brat. Take a backup on that folder and start filming YouTube. Sorry for the mix-up of show names. Brainstorma it is.
Well, thanks, Joker Rad. Yeah, I will. I promise.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much for attending. Thank you so much for the great questions. Please subscribe, and thank you, Henrik.
Thank you, Eric.